What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. We're whole again. This is our first episode of the new year, I believe, right? Or did we do one?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is.
Yeah,
Is it any?
2023. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it is definitely. Boys, happy new year through the pod. Happy new year if you're listening
Happy New
to this.
Year's.
Happy new year if you're watching. But yeah, so here's the little agenda we got going on today. As of today, Thursday, January 12th, the second fan returns came back for the All Star game in the beautiful city of Utah, which I'm sure is going to be packed with a very snow colored crowd, if you know what I'm saying. But we're going to discuss the returns
Jesus.
on that. And then on top of that, we're going to discuss some of the injuries that have been happening around the league, as well as some trades, because I think we're like a bit less than a month away from the trade deadline. So, and even now, I mean, if you think about it, the only real trade that's happened so far midseason is what that like Noah Vonleh just throwaway trade that just happened. I think that's like the only one, right?
Yeah, but if like, excuse me, that trade is clearly setting something up.
Oh, no doubt,
I mean, yeah,
no doubt. But just not to spoil anything for later on, let's get right into it, boys. The second All Star returns. I don't know where y'all want to start. I think since we're on the West Coast, let's start with the West Coast. So,
yes, sir.
front court, top 10. LeBron obviously leading the way. Then you got Jokic, AD, Zion, Wiggins, PG, Laurie Markkinen, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, and Kawhi Leonard. Well, I mean, I don't think it's like a new thing to be this whole like, why do the Warriors have so many people? Because it's like, this has kind of not only been an ongoing thing, but I mean, you saw in the first one, it was what? Pretty much the whole starting five was in like that front court or in like the Western Conference
Yeah.
Finals, which is, I understand why, because I mean, it's been like a really big ongoing theme that's like the best lineup in basketball when like they're all playing together. So makes sense, but kind of bleeds into why like the fan vote's a little like skewed, I feel.
Well, yeah. I mean, Andrew Wiggins has played how many games so far this season?
I don't
So
know.
it's
Has he
like,
even cracked 20?
I don't think he has. Like, that's the thing, right? And Kevon Looney's been consistent all year long, but he's not. He's not an NBA All Star, guys. Like, let's be real, right? Like, the fact that he's got almost as many views as like Pascal. I mean, as many views as like Tyrese Halliburton and Darius Garland. Like, that's kind of crazy to me, man. I don't know about that stuff, but like we talk about it every year. The fan voting is kind of it's obviously a popularity contest,
No doubt.
regardless of what you say, and so um, there's nothing really surprising there. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like we've had this almost every year. Like Andrew Wiggins got in last year simply because he was a K-pop fan. I mean, how many years do we
Oh
have
yeah.
Derrick Rose? Like Derrick Rose is in there. The dude's barely played 20 minutes all season long. Like it's an every year thing. And personally for me, I feel like the All-Star voting in terms of the impact, like how much fans can actually get the players in, should be a lower percentage. And they've made that adjustment in the last two seasons, but I think it should actually be much lower now.
Yeah, because what is it right now? I think is it a third of the
It's
vote?
like it's if I'm not mistaken, it's 50% of the vote.
Oh, no
And I
fucking
believe,
way.
yeah, and then
That's way
media is
too low.
25. Sorry, and then I think it's media.
It's media than peers, right?
Yes, I believe so. I think it's 25 media, 25 players, 50% fan.
See,
If
the
I'm not
perfect the
mistaken.
perfect mix is probably 25 fan, 25 media, 50% peers, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like at the end of the day, this should be a peers coaches like vote, in my honest opinion, because at the end of the day, who the peers and the coaches and those who are actually on the court and coaching, like that opinion should matter the most. Um, I will say the media, I think they are a notch above fans in terms of how they view the game as well. So I think they should at least get a bigger vote. I don't know if they want to do it like 33% fans, like a third of the vote for media, a third of the vote for players, just so that it's kind of even across the board. But I mean, Yeah, man, fans have way too much power for this process, and quite frankly, like they also kind of control what NBA players' resumes look like at the end of their careers. And it also controls like contractual things like in the future. Like I know that there are like hampers for guys if they don't make an All-Star game, they don't make the bonus or
Yeah, JT's probably like,
um
well, he was I think the All NBA was what fucked him, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what the one that screwed him over for sure.
yeah. What are you thinking of this list right here, Christian?
I was kind of thinking the same thing as Ruben, honestly, just thinking about like how when you look into this like 10 years from now, if like not much changes, like the sort of conversation on accolades kind of just weakens because like even when people are comparing like LeBron to say Michael Jordan, like a lot of it is due to like all-star game appearance. Like that's just like one thing people consider. I mean, that being said, obviously like LeBron's gonna make every all-star game he's in, but like for
Yeah.
people like I don't know, like Nick Claxton making it over assumingly like just looking at the East, like front court off the top of my head. Trying to think if there is another big that should be on this list. But you know what I mean? Like Kyle Kuzma is on this list. Like there's definitely players that are better in the East than these guys. Like I don't even see Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, Bam
Yeah.
was I
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
biggest for the.
Like now that
Yeah,
I'm
that's
actually
actually
looking at
crazy.
yeah, like
Like
looking at
Bam
this
should be
list, it's
getting All-Star
ridiculous.
You know
consideration
what's
for sure.
crazy? We haven't mentioned no Sabonis whatsoever. Like,
That too.
here's the thing. I've I've been somebody that's tried to temper my love for the Sacramento Kings. I feel they might be a year too early, but there's no way that I think Sabonis should not get in if Fox gets in. If you had to ask me, I think Sabonis deserves it more than Fox, to be honest. I think the thing
Mm,
is just that Fox just has a lot of the time it's the narrative. You know, Fox has always been this guy that has the all star numbers, has that all star, like, charismatic with him, swipe of the Fox. Everybody knows he's like this next kind of John Wall kind of thing. But when you look at like what's really made the Kings hum, well, yes, De'Aaron Fox has a lot to do with it. It's the fact that they got the poor man's Jokic, and that's not even like a big slight. Sabonis is a baller, and
yeah.
the fact that he's not even the top 10 is crazy to me.
No,
And
agreed about
it's,
Sabonis.
it's
Like,
probably just like some like Sacramento's never really gonna get the respect in California when you share a state with the Lakers.
well, I mean, there's a lot of other front court players. So, like again, popularity contest.
Mm.
Like Sabonis has typically always made it in from the coaches' vote, which is like not a bad thing. And I have a feeling he'll make it in purely from the coaches' vote. But he's also never really been a popular player for fans, and I think the biggest thing is the fact that he's never been a marketable guy. Like if you look across the teams that he's been on, right? Oklahoma City, um, the Indiana Pacers, and then now Sacramento. He's not on huge market teams, right? And so uh he'll get in from the coaches' votes. I mean we could probably go across the board and be like, what's our West and East All Stars? And there's no way you leave off Sabonis on that list because I mean I don't think there's been very many forwards or centers better than Sabonis this year, aside from like off the top of my head, Jokic in the West. Um, so
No doubt. I think this is the perfect segue into like the guards. So from the top of the list to the bottom, you got Steph, Luca, Jaw, SGA baby, Canada in the building, Clay Thompson, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, Austin Reeves, and De'Aaron Fox rounding out that top 10. And oh man, I know we segued into here, but I think Aaron. I'd like to see. I don't think Aaron Gordon would be top 10, but I'd be curious to see how many votes he got because I think you look at his impact and you kind of we all had this preconceived narrative that we'd see his production take a dip, but in fact he's hooping. I think he's shooting 70% from the field.
yeah,
That's my little bit to give some love to Aaron Gordon. Curious to see how many votes he got, but when you look at the guards, you know, I think the main person that's obviously lacking on the list is I think CJ McCollum.
yeah, I was just
Yeah,
about to say
CJ
the
McCollum.
one guy. like the fact that he doesn't even crack 200,000+ votes is kind of crazy. Because CJ should absolutely be an all-star this year.
He's
I
kept
mean,
that
I
ship
think he
afloat for
absolutely
real.
should be. But I mean, if you look again, the guard spots are so tough. Like, how many spots are there actually? So I believe there's 2 guard spots in the starting. And then when you look at the and then you look at the bench, I believe there's 2 on the bench, and then there's the 2 utils, right? If I'm not mistaken. So hard to beat out as many guys. Like the first 4 guys are likely gonna make it in. I don't see how Dame is gonna miss this game probably. And then De'Aaron Fox. So that's 6 guards right there, which is unfortunate.
No doubt, no doubt. But yeah, I think that then be the breaks kind of thing. When you look at that like team though, you know, obviously accolades like mean a lot to some people, but I think when you look at a guy like CJ McCollum, he's always kind of been like he's always had that I think more put the team first kind of mentality. I mean, you look at all like the success he had with Dame, it was all like everybody saying, "Oh, that's Dame's team." But don't forget, man, CJ McCollum rose from like, you know, solid budding guard to like a solid like lead option almost at some points. But yeah, I think if there's, I think similar to how Fred got in last, because Fred was a wait, did Fred get in naturally or was he a replacement?
Yeah, he was voted in by coaches.
Okay, never mind. I think if there's like somebody like Lamelo who gets in, I would hope CJ gets in, like on an injury.
Yeah,
But
which I think is possible. I mean, it's tough, man. Like, you look at the guard spot. Like Steph is healthy; he's gonna make it. If we're just going simply by what's going on right now, like Luka and Steph are gonna start the game. But I would argue that Josh should be starting the game over Steph simply from health. And Josh's been pretty consistent this year. And then Shea's gonna make it for sure. So that's 4. Dame's gonna make it. I have a feeling because he's typically like a shoe in.
yeah,
And then De'Aaron Fox. So I don't know, man. Who's gonna get injured from that, right? Like, who are the
true.
also? That's not to say the utils. Like the utils could also be forwards. Like the last 2 roster spots on the All Star game
Yeah.
are also like forward spots. So I mean, that's no shoe in either.
Like little sidebar here, y'all. Shea, I think, is going to fucking kill people in that game, man. I think Shea's gonna go into the Duffy, bro. I hope he like completely takes everybody's soul, man.
Nah, man. She's gonna have this kind of game is built for him.
100%. All right, we all good on the West? Anything else y'all want to touch on? You know, I know Austin Reeves may be the hillbilly Kobe, but you know, he ain't real Kobe.
He's not even getting a mention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But all right, let's look at this. Let's switch over to the Eastern Conference and front court. I like this list honestly. Maybe like a little bit of tweaking here and there, but KD leads the way. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Kuzma, Paulo Banchero, some rookie love, Nick Claxton, and Julius Randle finally gets it. I think he was definitely one of the main names. I think you left off of the first returns because I don't remember him being there, but seeing him like get into the second return makes sense. You know, he's playing at damn near his like MIP level, and shoot, he's got the Knicks humming for sure. A little streaky, but humming.
Mm-hmm.
I think Christian, my brother, why don't you lead the way here? What you thinking with this with this list here? I think before that, you guys all heard about everybody thinking like one of these guys got to get benched. When you look at like the starting front court,
I mean, personally, you know what? I can't. I don't know if I can defend JT completely and just say like he should start. But if I were to like actually, like consider like a competitive standpoint, I might bench KD in this situation just for like in terms of like if we're playing competitively, like I think defensively Tatum would be the better player beside Giannis. But I don't know. I think that's like my personal bias. I, I mean, if you're like, oh fuck, you know what? I didn't even look at Joel Embiid's name either. Um, I mean, Giannis, I think would play the five though. I'd take Giannis at the five over Joel Embiid, to be
Hell
honest.
yeah.
Um, I'd take Tatum. That I think those are the two players I'd take. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm leaving off JT respectfully.
Yeah, I think I am too. But from what it seems like, I think KD gets voted in as an All Star. He sits because he's got the MCL sprain. I don't think because he's supposed to be coming back within a month, right? So
Hmm.
that if we're counting days, like that's right up against All Star time. I don't think he's gonna play in the All Star game. I think he takes that time off. So it's kind of the best case scenario where KD gets voted in as a starter, but he doesn't play, and then you got Joel Tatum and Giannis.
Yeah, so Jason Tatum gets the Mickey Mouse start.
It's Joel at this point. If you really look at the voting, right? I mean, if we were going like the old days where you vote like those three forwards in, it would be Durant, Giannis, and Tatum.
No doubt.
So I mean, but yeah, Jason Tatum will probably get the will probably get the Mickey Mouse
Mickey
star.
Mouse star.
Well, that's what happened last year too. I think the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. Like there's always been one front court guy missing, and Tatum's gotten in. I think that's how it was last year. I can't remember.
Well, yeah, last year I think Katie was the captain, but obviously it was in the midst of his he sprained his meniscus or something. It was a long-term injury for like a month or so, and you saw how the
Yeah.
Nets went from top of the top to eating shit. But yeah.
Side note though, like let's not have Kevin Durant choose the team again, because that guy is so doo doo at putting a team together. Like, what was that dog dude that he put together?
Oh my
Like, what was that team that he drafted last year? That was garbage.
dude,
Like, was it him last year?
yeah,
It
and
was.
I think I think it's just considering that if you add KD to that team, they would have been alright. But the fact LeBron got Giannis, fucking Steph, you got Jokic.
Jokic and Luca and like just
Yeah, he really chose Kyrie first.
Man.
yeah. I think he might do that again this time because like if you look at the guards foreshadowing here, like Kyrie's probably gonna start.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I really hope. I want to see SGA and Kyrie just trade baskets, man. I hope we
That'd
get
be
something
fun.
like that. That would be. Mwah.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from this, though, I think Nick Claxton's probably like the main kind of like whoa name here, and we already alluded to earlier. No Bam, that's criminal. You know, where's the Miami love? And not only that, he's like I think really started to take this next step. You know, obviously he's always been known as that defensive anchor. He's one of the few guys that can guard 1 through 5. But I think you've seen this year he's really ramped it up on the offensive end. He's really started to like I think carve out his piece of the offense. I feel because it's always been very much like Bam gets in where he fits in, catch a few like dunks here and there, stay in the dunker spot. But you're seeing now he's like getting some solid touches, I think, and being able to like really create for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe there's no Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Damn. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic there. But I mean, Jared Allen's been struggling, if I'm not mistaken, with health, and Evan Mobley is also in a sophomore slump. But I mean, it's kind of crazy that like the Cavs are also playing really well, and they don't have one of their bigs in there because, I mean, granted, again, sophomore slump and health, but I don't know about Bankero being in there. Claxton's the only iffy name, but he's been playing really well lately.
I can't lie. I take Franz over Paulo in this list if I'm keeping it stacked. Franz is hooping.
Franz is having a good season. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. If you redraft that class, he might usurp Cade low key. I mean, when you look at like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a firm believer in this. 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, fuck it. Paulo and Franz, I think, have a higher ceiling than JT and JB.
That's a hot
Wow,
take.
that's a
It's a
hot
hot
take.
take, but I believe it. I mean, Paulo's probably the most like tank like player we've seen since a rookie LeBron. 6'11", 6'10", 250. He's able to handle the rock at some points. Shooting's a little spiffy here and there,
He's a
but
3-level scorer.
yeah, he can score at
He's a
multiple
3-level
levels.
guy.
Franz arguably was the most polished coming out that draft class. He's like got no holes in his offensive game. Maybe doesn't shoot too many threes, but you know, their type of game when you look at Franz is perfect for the playoffs once they get there. I mean, he's able to get to the midi, he's able to score at multiple levels, he's able to guard multiple positions. They're both like, I think Franz is what, like 6'7"? So
Yeah.
that's JT right there. And you got Paulo, who's bigger than both of them. Pause. But man, I will see how this like transverses in the next few years. But man, I'll say it. Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, them's the breaks. Them's are the boys. They're gonna be better than JT and JB. Does that translate into championship? I don't know. But JT and JB also don't have one, so you can't really pull that card, I guess.
That's because this year hasn't ended yet.
Y'all remember how Jason Tatum was in the finals? Ass.
Okay, it's the passing of the torch. LeBron had to go through it too with Timmy D. You've seen the picture of them hugging in the locker room after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but
that was good.
that was more the Spurs beat LeBron. Steph Curry fucking sunned that whole team, man.
Yeah, but Steph Curry, that they are like the dynasty team of this generation.
No
The-
doubt. If there's a
it's
team to lose to, it'd probably be them. So that
yeah,
makes sense. But I mean, yeah. I mean, looking at here, yeah, those are probably the two shaky ones, and then Bam is probably the biggest snub here. But let's switch over to the guards. You got Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, DeMar DeRozan. I don't get why he's listed as a guard, but then you got LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, Derrick Rose for some reason, and then Darius Garland. I'm really hoping Tyrese is able to play. He might sit just for the sake of like preserving his body for this next little stretch, but I want to see Tyrese play in the All-Star game, no doubt, for sure.
Yeah, I think he absolutely gets voted in. I mean, he's having a hell of a year right now, right? And from what I've understood or what I've read, Indiana is looking to improving the team to trying to win at deadline, which is interesting because we all went into this being like Wemby for Indiana, right? Like we were talking about fire sale, like Buddy Hield and Miles Turner are going to be trade candidates. When it looks like, from what I read, this report saying, um, that they're looking to upgrade without having to deal Turner or Buddy Hield at the deadline. So, I mean,
What's
yeah.
TJ McConnell gonna get you?
Oh, dude, I think he can get you a Gary Trent Jr. No, just kidding. Absolutely not. But yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll talk about this more in the next section. But like, it's clear that Tyrese Halliburton has also accelerated that team into being able to play for playoff contention. And so, again, like narrative is also really important in any conversation. And we went into the season thinking Indiana was going to be hot garbage. And I mean, they're a team that's look like they're gonna contend for playing at the very least, but a playoff spot too. So Tyrese has got to make it. I think there's absolutely no way he doesn't make it in. That'll be one of the biggest snubs if he doesn't make it.
Oh, no doubt. But I mean, overall, is there any like you guys think snubs for the guards in the East? Like, who would you replace Derrick Rose with, basically?
I'm trying to think of right now. Well, I was gonna say Fred, but Fred hasn't had a very consistent season. But he's sure as hell been better than Derrick Rose. LaMelo Ball's barely played this year. Um, so I mean, those are two names off the bat. I mean, Zach LaVine, even though he's on a down year, he's been an upward trend, right? And he's typically an
No.
all-star player. So
If Drew didn't miss so much time, Drew Holiday would be on this list.
absolutely,
No doubt.
absolutely, there's no doubt. And in any usual case, his team that's probably top two in the Eastern Conference does not go into the All Star game with just one All Star, right? So, where are they at in the standings right now? Is Brooklyn still at second?
They're third now. Yeah,
Where's Brooklyn at?
they lost today. Brooklyn's second. We're just a game behind them though, or half a game. I mean, because we both have 27.
I'll be keeping an eye out. My prediction from the last podcast when I said Brooklyn's going to be first by the All Star break. So, I mean, they were sitting first at like 8 hours, were they not, or something like that before the next game? They
I
were
think something
like,
like
or
that,
they
then they
were just
lost
at first. Yeah, so predictions looking pretty good. But like I said, like I think the guards have it pretty. I think the guards like can't. Derrick Rose obviously shouldn't be in that list. LaMelo Ball's popularity vote, but in terms of where they at, I mean, do you guys think James Harden should be that high up in the list? Because he's also barely played this year.
Mm,
No, I don't think
no,
so.
but I think everybody got a little bit of the nostalgia when like he started to play, like he went on that tear for the first start of the year.
Yeah. No, he was definitely big time to start the year, but they also weren't winning at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year.
People forget that too.
So, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Like, who are we missing off this list?
Jalen Brunson.
Jalen
probably,
Brunson. Oh
yes,
my
absolutely.
gosh.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson's the
the other,
big snub
the
here.
other
Absolutely.
point guard for that team.
Holy.
Absolutely.
I literally have that in my
Absolutely.
notes. Jalen Brunson, biggest snub.
See that? I guess that's why people forgot about voting him. We forgot about him too. He's just one of those dudes that just fly under the radar, but he's such a great player. Like, he should absolutely be in All-Star contention this year. The New York Knicks have to have at least what? They have to have at least one guy make the game this year.
And I think when you look at like how stuffed it's going to be in the front court, I think even though Julius Randle's playing like a madman, Jalen Brunson, that's a bad motherfucker, man.
No, yeah, he's definitely bad. I mean, Dallas is missing him.
Oh,
Dallas
for
is
sure.
missing him. Right? There is one name I will say, sorry, that I forgot about the Eastern forwards. If there's one guy from Washington that should be getting voted, it's Porzingis. Like, Porzingis is
I think
he's
like
he's
Kuzma.
having a great season. I mean,
True.
yes, Kuzma is too. But,
you could take out Paulo, and I think Porzingis is probably like 11 or 12 though, for being real. He's got to be right there.
yeah. Yeah.
Probably.
But I mean, just looking at it, they've been on the bit of this, like the bit of a slide here and there. They're in they're in the play-in, I believe, right? Yeah, no, they're not even in the play-in. They're behind your boys, Ruben. But
Yep.
man, Chris Dingus Pingus.
Pingus.
No, but I mean, All-Star game I think is gonna be bonkers this year. It's gonna be a select game. Again, Shea is probably gonna like. I just want to see it be competitive, man. Because, this is always advertised as the best pickup game in the world, yada, yada, yada. But it's always like, hold up, let him get his shit off kind of thing. And then in the last few bits is when you really see what you want to see. But, man, I just want it to be like back in them days. But, I think we're just past those days, I feel. However...
Well, I mean, the last
Shea
few
might be
games
the
have been
guy.
pretty competitive. Like, the last few years have been pretty competitive.
True, but
Except
there's
for
still
every time
like,
Durant has voted.
yeah, there's still those like instances of like just letting people kind of like, it's almost like the Globetrotter game almost, where it's not so much you're fully just playing the game, but you're like, let this man go do his thing rather than letting it come in the flow of the game. But man, Shea. I'm fucking, man. Shea might be All-Star MVP, man. I hope shit like that happens.
That would be fun to see. I mean, I would also say, like, I think a guy who will get in for his first time and kind of go bonkers is Laurie Markkinen. So,
Man, Laurie should just shoot every single time.
yeah.
Anytime that ball touches his hand, that shit better be going up. No doubt.
I will also say this is probably one of the first All-Star games in a while where most of the top guys are healthy. I mean, aside from AD and D Book, typical guys that are just write-ins into this game.
You know, 3-time All-Star Chris Middleton.
He ain't even on the list.
Well, I mean,
Because
he's
he
been
hasn't
injured.
played.
But I mean, that's the thing. It's like if let's say every team, like we had to limit teams, All-Star teams, from having one to only having one All-Star, which is a crappy rule because, like, I think. Actually, no. Let me take that back. I think the whole thing of top teams having 3 All-Stars is kind of crazy to me. It's kind of crazy to me. Only because, like, am I really gonna take a guy, who's averaging 20 points and 3 rebounds and 4 assists over a guy who is having a 26, 9, and 7 season? Like, and it's an all-star thing, but like, unfortunately, we've been like a lot of the people who have been voting have been voting for, hey, this dude is on a winning team and he's got solid numbers, so let's reward the winning team when it's an all-star individual category. And I think Shaq has made this argument many times, which I quite frankly agree with him because of the fact that like all-star is an individual accolade and it matters to players' resumes, not to teams' resumes. So why are we rewarding the team winning by putting individual accolades on all-star teams when there are guys who are just having bonkers seasons? And I get the whole context of like, well, the guy's getting like 30 shots a game, and so that's why he's padding his stats for a crappy team. But it's like, I'm gonna be dead ass. Is Chris Middleton getting 26, 9, and 7 on the Raptors instead of Pascal Siakam? Like, no, he's not. So, like, that would be my argument. Is like, there are a lot of players like that who are on winning teams. So, like, yes, Jalen Brunson's having a great year, but, like, is he better than a guy who's having an all-star season like Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, DeMar? Like, he's not having a better individual season. Like, yeah, he's impacting winning, but, like, he's not having a better individual season from a stats perspective also than some of the guys that are listed on the fan returns. So that, like, that's my biggest argument of the whole thing. But again, that's to say, like, you know, this will be a fun All-Star game because most of the guys are healthy again, and I think we'll get a pretty good collection of guys rather than most of the years we've seen in the past where teams are getting like 3 All-Stars. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna see Trey Murphy from the Pelicans make it because he's on the second flag. Like, dude, like, that was that one time when we had the whole Atlanta Hawks starting lineup except for Damari Carroll make it.
Holy shit, man! I remember that. That was disgusting.
Like, and like, no, like, it's that's not to say like Chris Middleton's not an all-star, but I mean, like, I hate seeing the situations like the Atlanta Hawks where we're constantly rewarding players to make the All-Star game because they're on winning teams. Like, I just don't think that's how it should work.
Yeah,
But
and even
anyways.
like recently, you saw that year Bradley Beal damn near won the scoring title.
And he didn't make the game.
That was probably like the most insane one I think in recent memory.
He didn't make the game, man.
30, averaging 30.
How, man? You
That
tell
was
me.
disgusting, man. Holy, yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, I think it's just like you see both arguments and for the extremes, because like for players averaging 50, but their team hasn't won a game, that's where you're like, okay,
Okay, then you
that's
can't.
kind of the stuff like that. Like I think there's always saying there is a line, but I think it's just you're always moving it back or forward. It's never really defined in the sand, I feel.
Yeah, that's a good point. Never define. It's definitely not defined in the sand. But I mean, it would be nice if there was some consistency to it. Like, for me, yes, it has made sense to have like Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday voted in, or in the past where Kyle Lowry's been voted in. Like, because Kyle Lowry is not having a better individual season than some of these guys, but he's always been voted in because he's been an impact player on a winning team with solid numbers. But you can't be like, oh my God, 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. Like, that's NBA All-Star numbers. Like, that's what Jalen Brunson's like pretty much averaging. Like, those are similar numbers, but again, I digress.
It be like that. But hey, speaking on Chris Middleton, the injuries that are piling up this year are crazy. Well, yeah, you got guys like Kawhi who are finally back healthy. PG missed a big chunk of last year. We just saw recently KD's out for a couple weeks. Not only that, Brandon Ingram, the heir apparent to Slim Reaper, he's on my fantasy team, and damn, it's sad as fuck that he hasn't been playing. But I think he's right back on the precipice of it. And then, obviously being a Bucks fan, pretty like well into the Chris Middleton situation. I mean, he's practicing, which I think is a decent sign. But I think it's just a result of maybe rushing him back a little too early. Now it's just put his recovery a bit further back. But I mean, that's just a little bit of, I guess, fantasy, what's it called? Fantasy woes, I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think about like a lot of the injuries that have been happening this year? Have they made or break your fantasy seasons?
I mean, you go ahead, Christian. I think you've got you got some fire in your breath, yo.
I, I don't think well, I've been pretty lucky to not have any huge injuries on my team. But I think the one thing I've noticed is that teams are extremely cautious this year. Like, players are always probable or questionable, like
Yeah,
every other week or like every week now. Like, even Luca at this point has rested some games, and I get like, yeah, you need to keep your star players healthy for the season, whatever else. But like, there's been a lot of resting of players, and there's like very few players who actually just like, well, obviously there's very few players that play all 82, but even like players who are just like not making excuses, there's not a ton of players these days that are like only not playing because they legitimately can't play. But there's a lot of like resting of stars. Like John Morant has been resting a lot, and he has been going through some injury stuff. Keep in mind, but like even then, he's been like, I think Memphis has been very precautionary with him. Luca's been the same, even though they're not necessarily. Well, they've definitely improved. I think they're the fourth seed in the West right now. Um, but yeah, I've just noticed that it's been pretty annoying. I think from the fantasy standpoint, to just have to deal with like, you know, like small like injuries or rest days, because I think it's become like almost uh like a strategy in the NBA at this point. Um, what else? Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much it. There are some pretty legit injuries, I think. Like, I think one that's been pretty like frustrating for a lot of people has been like Carl Anthony Towns' injury.
yeah,
Um, just even obviously as like for any Timberwolves fans out there too, like because I mean it's obviously hard to say like what he's going through, but like I I think a calf strain injury shouldn't really warrant like 2 months
yeah,
almost off, and it almost seems like they're just like saying like thinking like okay maybe next season is it, and maybe this season might just be a write off because they're pretty much just riding along for play-in spot at this point right now. So
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, like, there's silver lining to that situation too. It's like they've clearly figured out that Anthony Edwards should be the guy moving forward with Cat out. Like, he's been balling ever since he went down with the injury.
yep,
And then another injury that's been pissing people off is the fact that like it seems like almost every day the dude is like, oh, he's out again this day. He's out again this day. It's freaking Brandon Ingram. Like, he's been out
Yeah,
since
that
November
one
25th
that
with
one
that
hoed
toe.
me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him in 2 other leagues, man. It's dumb, and it's like, okay, like I get the toe injury's crazy because again, we just saw for the Raptors side, Otto Porter went out for the rest of the season because they gave him season-ending surgery on, excuse me, on a dislocated toe. So that's a very serious injury. Like, obviously, if you got a toe that you can't play on, that's it's difficult to play basketball if your feet are not working, man.
Jeez.
But Yeah, it is annoying. Like, there's so many players like constantly like their status is GTD or questionable or and you alluded to it, Christian. It's freaking annoying because there are so many reasons like for players to just be like, okay, I'll take the rest. And how many times have we seen so far already like rest and injury management and load management and all this stuff? Like, I get players are more precautionary nowadays, and so I think like it sucks because I feel like there's a real solution to this to all these players. But I mean, to stick with the injuries, like KD going down sucks just simply for the narrative because like my prediction probably is much harder to come true now that KD's gonna be out for a month, right? And we'll definitely see them slide. Like, I'll almost guarantee to say like my prediction is not gonna come true because of the fact that one of the best players in the world is not gonna be playing for you. Even though like Brooklyn looks super deep, right? Like I mean TJ Warren, this is a really good opportunity for him to kind of come back on his own 2 feet. I mean, like you said, Middleton being out for so long, and it looks like he's going to come back soon. He did a full practice. What was that, yesterday or today?
Yeah, he's been practicing, but I don't know. I feel like I would have been fine if they just sat him until like the All-Star break, genuinely, because now you got this whole kind of like toe in, toe out kind of thing happening.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you rest him till All Star because, dude, like the Bucks are third. The Bucks don't need to care about like you give them the fourth seed. That team will probably be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I really don't care what anyone's gonna say. It'll be the Milwaukee Bucks and whoever else is in the Eastern Conference. That's just like my personal opinion. And so again, last year they were Middleton away from being in the NBA Finals. Like, I have been like, this is not just me being like, oh, DJ's a close friend. Like, I'm on his ass about this, but like, no, like this team was simply Middleton away from being in the NBA Finals, and so you know, again, that's tough. Injuries are tough. Like, I mean, there's so many that we can cover up and down throughout the league. Like Anthony Davis, the fact that they've been playing well without him, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
isn't AD supposed to come back like this week? Or he's
yeah,
like
he's
looking
ramping
at
up
it?
his work.
Yeah.
Yeah, his workload has ramped up quite a bit. So that'll be interesting to see because they've fared pretty well without him. And I'm not gonna say here like a team is better without Anthony Davis, but they are playing. They are driving. They just lost in double overtime to Dallas, but like they've been really competitive lately. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, the injuries to Jimmy Butler, like he's been playing for like 5 games and he's out again. Like,
That
that's
whole
kind of
core
crazy
has
to
been
me.
like a little wishy washy, except for like Bam.
I think they gotta blow it up, man.
Damn, really?
Yeah, I think they blow it up, and I think you just focus on building around Bam.
That's
That's my
hot.
2 cents.
That's hot. I mean, yeah, I understand it. Just because like Miami's just been teetering on that like they've been riding that high since Mickey Mouse, man. They've been riding
That's
that
what. Yeah,
high.
exactly.
Yeah.
Poverty.
No,
That is, it's the term we've been using, and I think it might just be time to slide them in that group. They're a poverty team.
yeah, I mean, like, look at their pieces. Like, what do they have to really build around? Like, what do they really have to develop? Like, the
Man,
best
Omer
teams that we're seeing.
Yurtseven.
He's a solid player, though. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
though.
he'd
He's
be a
solid,
good rotation player if he was healthy.
absolutely. But like, what do the best teams have right now? It's talent, top tier talent, and or top tier prospects. And so you look at a team like Toronto, if they say blow it up, I don't mind building around Scotty Barnes. Like, I will gladly build around the NBA reigning rookie of the year and the guy who looks like he's going to be a 28-8 guy for the rest of his career. You could say the same thing literally about multiple teams at the top of the West. Denver. You look at the Pelicans. Like, Pelicans are an easy example. The Grizzlies. Hell, you can say this damn same thing about the Warriors. Like, they have a lot of good young pieces you can build around. Poole looks like at some point he's gonna be an NBA All-Star. Kuminga has shown so much tantalizing, like skills and abilities. And I'm probably missing teams off the top of my head. Like Cleveland is a team. Like they have really
Next
good
year
top
might
tier
be their
talent.
year. High key.
That's what I'm saying. And they have really good young players that they can build around. So, I mean, the only teams you can sit there and say is like, man, Miami looks like they're stuck in the middle in a bad way because they don't have guys that they can develop other than Bam and Tyler Hero. And then the Lakers are are an obvious example without any future. And a lot of their success hinges on LeBron James,
Man, just trade the
right?
fucking picks, man. Just trade them.
You trade him, or because like that trades that pick is in 2027, and I get them wanting to keep that because by the time it reaches that year, like they're probably going to be ass. So, I mean, it's tough that back and forth, but again, like the point still stands. Like teams have the best of both worlds, and a team like Miami really doesn't. Really doesn't. Like Bam is a player you can build, you can focus on. But would you sit in here and say, "Oh, I'll build my franchise around Bam Adebayo"?
He needs to shoot a bit more if I could say that. You know, I'm not telling him to shoot
Yeah.
threes, but you know, at least like a few elbow jumpers here and there.
Like, what's he averaging right now? Like, he's at least like he defensively
He's
he is
20 and
as
10 for
generational.
sure.
Yeah, I mean that is a player that's worth building around in some sense. But like that team is stuck in the mud. A team like Atlanta is stuck in the mud too. But
Oh man, that's
again,
such. It's not necessarily like a letdown because I think that was kind of like the big question going into this year. But it's clear that that doesn't work. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you guys say it's more like just Trey and DeJounte don't fit, or Nate McMillan needs to go? Because I'm personally on the boat that, you know, Nate McMillan's a great coach. Don't get me wrong, but there's just I think no real world where like a fully defensive minded coach that's everything Nate McMillan's always like all Nate McMillan teams have held their hats on except for these Hawks teams is defense. And right now your whole team's built around probably the worst defender in the league. So I don't know. I'm personally on the camp that you don't even think about like blowing anything up. I think Nate McMillan's got to go, and then you see what you can get back for John Collins because I think this team has all the pieces to I think really to suit them. You look at a guy like AJ Griffin, perfectly pairing alongside those two guards. You know, they're Trey and Dejounte, shot makers for sure. But when it comes to the three, little spotty here and there. AJ Griffin I think fills that hole. And they just got a lot of things I think they could do. I'd like to see them do that before, like, you know, if a trade thing does happen, it's definitely not happening mid-season. But, I think this could be the 12th hour for, or the 11th hour for the Atlanta this upcoming, like, trade deadline. What are you going to do to really keep Trey hopeful, I guess?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it also hasn't helped that Clint Capella has been out for so long. Like him being
No
out,
doubt.
like a defensive minded team, or at least system, and you missing your anchor is it's huge. Like that's a huge hole in the wall that you can't really hide. Onyeka Okongwu was playing really well, but like again, like he's a younger piece that doesn't fill the gaps like a Clint Capella does, and so I would agree with the direction in terms of like what this team should be building for. The roster construction I think is just not suited for the coach and his mindset because again, if you're a coach, and this is what I've always believed, is you have to maximize the talent of your roster. You cannot fit square pegs in circle holes. Right? Like
that.
you can't like but it's a real thing, right? Like you can't ask Trey Young to be an all defensive player when he's just not a good defender from the moment he entered the league. So you have to find a way to maximize his talent, whether that's leaking out on the defensive end and maybe allowing buckets to happen, but you get it right back on the offensive end, and maybe that's your form of defense, is your ability to get out and transition and force teams to have to play at your pace. And so that's what a guy like Trae Young does. Like, he can control the pace of the game. So simple things like that that I think is missing for Atlanta. The DeJounte Trae thing, I think they work. I think the other part of it is I don't think a guy like... I initially thought that John Collins was going to eat.
I thought so too.
He is eating now, though, with a little bit lately with Clint Capella being out. But again,
He still can't really shoot though, and I think that's the main thing that you need to piece it all together with that.
Yeah, agreed. And so, I mean, I go back to this at one episode we shot. I said Karl Anthony Towns on the Atlanta Hawks would be really interesting.
Yeah, that was a good take. I do remember that.
So, I mean, you might as well just go full offensive and buy into, like, I just think, like, look at a team like Dallas made the Western Conference Finals just by being a team focused on offense and having, like, your anchor piece, like Dorian Finney-Smith, just anchored defensively. Now, I don't know if I'd go out to say that I wouldn't trade Dorian Finney-Smith for Pascal Siakam, but, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like Toronto, I always go back to it just because it's the easy example for me to reference. And I think it's a mix of not really maximizing your roster construction and the pieces just don't necessarily fit together. And I think we're seeing that a lot this year because when there's parity in the league, you can kind of break up teams that are just on a string and teams that just like look like the glass is broken, you just tape it up. It's not a situation where you come in, the Golden State Warriors are the best team in the world, and so it makes everybody else looks like garbage. This is the first real season where we're like, man, there's a real parity across the league. So, I mean, you can really tell which teams are kind of not up to par. A team like Boston on the string, a team like Milwaukee on the string, a team like Denver, the Pelicans, they've got the best of both worlds.
No doubt. I think this is the perfect segue into like some trade talk. Now, again, we're about a month away from the trade deadline. You know, there's got to be some movement happening soon. As we said, there hasn't been much traction at all, but, you know, there's all these inklings. What's Toronto going to do? You know, we've always talked about how Phoenix needs to do something because, like, shit ain't going to work if you got Dwayne Washington Jr. leading your line. And,
Yeah.
you know, this whole blunder of the Timberwolves, what's going to happen next kind of thing. So, I think let's start it like this. Ruben, being the residential Raptors fan, where are you at right now?
I've changed my tune on a lot of things. Number one, I think Gary Trent should resign. I hope they manage to resign Gary Trent Jr. I think in the last episode I said it would be nice if you managed to trade Gary Trent because obviously you're unsure about his contract situation and you don't want him to walk away for nothing, but the perfect scenario would be if you gain a commitment from Gary Trent, you sign him in the offseason. And so that goes on to the next point. I think Fred VanVleet is a guy that potentially gets traded because again, he's on a contract year. He's looking for 4 to 5 years, upwards of $130 million, which is not something that I want to pay my 29, 30-year-old point guard who has been dealing with really bad health issues as of late, who is on a downward spiral. And he's been playing better as of late, but then again, they've been playing the Hornets like back to back. So I think Toronto's definitely going to make a move at the deadline. But right now, what is happening is, from what I've read and what I've understood, is they were waiting to the end of the month to see where they're at record-wise. So if they're a team that's still flirting for a playoff spot, I can fully see Masai buying in and trying to make a team that can contend for playoff contention. But if this team has got if this team's got high odds and they're still where they're at, like the 12th or 13th, whatever seed it is in the Eastern Conference, then I could also see them blowing it up. Now, do I want them to blow it up? To be honest, no. So, I mean, in terms of trades that's going to happen, the only name that I see really getting moved, truthfully, is Gary Trent Jr. even though I don't want him to. Realistically, I think Gary Trent has a lot of value right now in terms of a lot of teams will die to have him, right? Like he's a player that will contribute to contending team right now. Um, and so he's going to be high up on the board. And from what I understand, he's the most shoppable, most available player on the Raptors. So yeah, I think unless you get like crazy trade offers, like major draft compensation for guys like Pascal and OG, the big names aren't getting moved. I could also see a bunch of their bench guys getting moved too. So, especially with Otto Porter going down. And I know that the reports have also said that teams and execs are just waiting for Toronto, see what they do, because they could be the catalyst that kind of like breaks everything apart this season, this trade deadline year. So, I mean, to be honest though, I don't think that's the case because I don't there's I don't know if this is my bias talking or just me being like I just seeing the way Masai has moved in the past. I don't think he's moving on from Pascal, OG, Scotty anytime soon. Unless they completely tank from now until the end of February, and then they manage to be worse than the Pistons or something like that. So, um, we'll just have to wait and see, man. But I think, like I said, Gary Trent's probably the name we're gonna see like whipped around all February.
Do you have like a wish list of players in terms of like if they do end up keeping the course and trying to buy into this roster?
Well, I mean, the name that I would love, the two guys I would love on this roster are Miles Turner and Jakob Poeltl. I think this team just absolutely needs a starting center. Um, because a lot of what Nick Nurse's success has been built off having a center that is mobile defensively, that can play make offensively, who's really good in the short roll, and it has really good high low ability, especially with Pascal. Because I mean, the Raptors have been like they've been spoiled for like the last few years between Jonas Valanciunas, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, and then we got dropped Aaron Baines and Ken Burch for the last 3 years. So, and we all thought Aaron Baines was going to be a really nice piece, right? Like, because he had a really good season with Boston, and then, we all thought that he was going to be a nice filler for Marc Gasol. Boy, were we wrong. And he allowed us to get Scotty Barnes. And then we kind of put tape on the hole. Um, so yeah, you definitely need a starting center. So those two guys, you'll need a backup guard. For me, I would love to see if we could get Rozier. I don't know if that's possible. But I have a feeling that Charlotte would be willing to shop Rozier, especially if they continue to be hot garbage. And I'd like them to see what they can get from Orlando because they have multiple guards there. I think Terrence Ross is the guy they need. I think Toronto needs shooting, and I think with Otto out, Terrence Ross is the guy that provides that. I'd like to see if we could get Markel Fultz for cheap because I think he
Ooh,
like
that would be nice.
yeah, he would be a perfect guard. Like I mean, both ends really good fit for the Raptors, especially as a backup guard to Fred. And if the two centers I mentioned aren't available or are too high of a price for what Toronto is looking for, I would love them to take a flyer at Mo Bamba. Because it seems that he's on the outskirts of that situation because they've got Wendell Carter Jr. and Bol Bol. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the wish list, and so I think what happens there kind of like sticks to everything. Like the domino effect is gonna happen after that.
Respect, respect. Christian, how you feeling about the Celtics? Do you think there are even any moves to be made?
While we were talking about the Raptors there, I was just looking at like what our draft capital is actually looking like. And I mean, it seems like the Celtics have obviously done a good job over the years protecting their draft capital. It's not like they've made any huge trades. And I mean, just like we are talking about, Novan, they did get dealed off for basically nothing there. And so I do think um I do think we're probably going to make a run for a center. I think that's probably going to be the consensus of like what the rap or sorry, fuck, what the Celtics are gonna need. Um, and I think like I'd probably favor more of a Miles Turner archetype over Jakob Pertl archetype. And I mean, I think either player would suit him well, just because. I think with the sort of like, not to say JT is undersized, he does get boards, but they do need like I think a stronger rebounding big, and Jakob Poeltl I think probably um, takes that over Miles Turner, but Miles Turner is definitely the more defensively present player, and I think he's still able to develop into a better rebounding center. So that being said, I would really want either of them at this point, and I think they would be willing to give up draft capital to either of those teams. And I mean, you're just talking about how kind of how reports were saying that Pacers might not even be a moving team, so I could see us realistically landing Jakob Poeltl. I don't think there's another center in the league that could probably be a win now center in this sort of situation. Like I think if this was maybe the Celtics last year, or maybe like kind of where they were at this time last year or the year before, maybe Mo Bamba would have been a player that we would consider. Um, but I think they're looking for a center that can play 28 minutes alongside Al Horford. And I think just based on how they're kind of projecting Robert Williams and how he's been back so far, I don't think he's going to ramp up to 30 minutes maybe until like April. So I think they are going to for sure make a move for a center. I'd be surprised if they don't. Just because I
Yeah.
mean,
100%.
all respect to Blake Griffin, but his NBA days are over.
Or
I
to
think
Lana
it's time for him
Rhodes.
to learn. Time for him to learn some Mandarin and
Yeah.
get back in.
If I could drop, I think Boston has a number of draft assets too. Like they've accumulated
Oh,
since Danny Ainge left, right? Like
there is a lot. I'm like looking here. They have I think they have picks through pretty much 20, like all of their picks pretty much through 2030 and onwards.
right.
Besides like a few picks that have been traded, but pretty much everything is stuck with them. So yeah,
Yeah, from
everything
what
is
I
pretty
thought they
much
had
been
extra
homegrown.
draft capital too. I thought they had extra draft capital too from previous trades, but like I think Boston's the one team that could be like, hey man, we're willing to move our next 2 years of picks worth it for a starting center for like a Jakob Poeltl. And like if you really think like Jakob Poeltl would, oh my god, like Jakob Poeltl and the Boston Celtics would be so perfect because um he's really good in the screen role, and him working with a guy like Marcus Smart or even a Jason Tatum on the short
Yeah,
roll, he's really good at just like flipping it out for passers, which is what Al Horford's really good at too. So from a systemic like style of play, like Jakob Poeltl is a perfect fit for all the shooters right in Boston and their style of play. And then again, he provides like really like he's a really good defensive anchor. So and from what I understand, I think San Antonio is looking for a first round pick. So man, I think Jakob Poeltl on the Boston Celtics might actually like
That would be nasty.
yeah might
That'd be
have
so nasty.
DJ. I might have to be like DJ. Might
If
have
they
to
do
put
that,
Boston.
if I do it, I can't even cap.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's
can
that's
throw
without
Derek White
Chris.
in there
That's
too.
without Chris Middleton.
That's okay. Without Chris, okay, fair enough. All
You know,
right.
right now you had Jakob Poeltl with the Bucks right now. Yeah, sure. But if you had a guy who's 26-5, damn near 50, 40, 90, ramped it up to 24 in the playoffs, I don't know.
Is Middleton a 26-5 guy?
Yeah, he's 26-5.
Is that what he's averaging this year? Is
Not this year. No, because this year
that
he
what he
hasn't.
averaged last year?
I think, yeah, that was about what he averaged last year. Let me see.
Wow, man, Middleton, I do not give you enough credit.
Okay, Chris Middleton. Well, granted, when you got Giannis, you could just toss that shit up, and you'll get something here and there.
You'll get a second shot.
See, that's fucking disrespectful now. Come on now.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a
yeah.
50, 40, 90 guy, but I mean,
That's why he's shooting 50% because he makes every a second shot that Giannis tosses to him.
He misses the first one, but he gets the second one.
Yeah.
He's 1 for 2.
What were Jason Tatum splits in the finals? Tell me that. I know they were dog shit. I know they were dog shit.
Okay,
Bro, that team was not ready to. That team was not ready for the Golden State Warriors, though. Let's be real. That Warriors team was on a hunt.
It wasn't even, it was a fake. What was it? What did he do it in 5 or 6? That was fake. They just, that was them, letting them get their shit out, whatever it may be. But man, I'm gonna look
Yeah.
this up.
Yeah, but I also don't want to get guarded by Klay Thompson, Gary Payton, Andrew Wiggins, or Draymond Green
Oh
through
yeah,
a full 7-game
they had
series.
them in
Like
lockup.
they absolutely had him in lockdown. Jaylen Brown had a better series, but it's because like they decided and said, "Hey, we're gonna shut Jason Tatum down completely and make the other guys do stuff." And the problem is when Boston is when they get into a situation of allowing the other guys to try and make plays, like that's like going to the lottery, man, and submitting a lottery ticket. Like you might come away with $1 million, or you might just make $8. Like that's what happens when you don't know what you're gonna get from the others on a daily basis. So
Hey man, Jason Tatum shot 18% in a finals game. Chris Middleton ain't never fucking done that. Chris Middleton ain't never done that shit.
All right, but it's Chris. Oh, I'm not, you know what? I don't even want to argue. If you want to compare Chris Middleton and Jason Tatum, that's fine with me. But every superstar has had to go through their slump. Fucking LeBron lost to JJ Barea. All right, everyone
Shit.
has had
that is true. That is true.
everyone's had the.
Yeah, that's valid.
That was on the Heatles. That's worse than losing to the Golden State Warriors, in my opinion. Obviously, that Dallas team, another story. But
I don't know.
every
That's the most meaningful ring
he
of all
still
time.
had prime Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade was not in his prime on that team. That motherfucker's knees were blowing out.
But he wasn't obviously on a decline yet. He was still Dwayne Wade, you know.
He was still Dwayne Wade. He was.
But
My God.
we go act like Dwayne Wade didn't. What was it? 26 or was it 34 in the finals when it's like third year?
Oh, that was insane! Like 2006 when they won. Like Dwayne Wade is in a class of his own. Like
Dwayne, I'm not gonna lie. Dwayne Wade's probably one of the most disrespected players in all time.
No cap.
I'm not gonna lie.
No cap.
I was somebody who thought James Harden is the third best shooting guard of all time. But man, that shit ain't true.
Oh no, and I think it really is Mike, Kobe, Dwayne Wade.
And way
James Harden
down here.
Yeah, just like James Harden all the way down by my ankles, like yeah, man. Dwayne Wade is so special, man.
Dwayne Wade's a fucking demon, man. But yeah, Chris Middleton over. I'll take Chris Middleton over Jason Tatum in the finals.
I thought you was gonna say I'll take Chris Middleton over Dwayne Wade.
Nah, maybe that's where I draw the line. I'm not taking Chris Middleton over any legends. Jason Tatum, sure.
Bet you take Pascal Siakam.
See,
the
last time Pascal Siakam was in the NBA Finals, we were saying he's just Anthony Bennett with a fucking with a spin move. Y'all remember that?
The NBA Finals, he had 31 in Game 1 against the Warriors, and then he got the game-winning bucket in Game 6. 2019, dog. He was literally like the second best player on the floor, like almost every night.
What was Chris Middleton?
He do be a Beyblade though.
He was like the third best. I think it was like Giannis, and then Devin Booker, and then Chris Middleton.
You not putting Chris Middleton over Devin Booker now, are we? Come on now.
Devin Booker was special, man. He had a great finals run, didn't he?
Devin Booker's the first motherfucker to have 7 fouls in a finals game. I know that.
Yeah, Devin Booker was special. His career is over.
Oh shit!
Holy.
Was special. Man, for a 25-year-old, that's the shortest career out of a great of all time.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
All right, now when it comes to the Bucks, when it comes to trade targets, let's try to ring this in here. We'll last thing. I mean, Chris Middleton coming back. We don't need no Jakob Poeltl. We don't need no crazy big move to prove that we're contenders. The Bucks are the Bucks, man. Bucks in 6, motherfucker. Nah, but when it comes to trade targets, I got a few. I think best case is a guy like Jordan Clarkson, because man, here's the thing. I love Mike Budenholzer, but shit, man, it's hard to fuck with him at this moment. When man, this team just has no spunk to it. There's no real no real energy. And I think a guy like Jordan Clarkson will really help with that. I don't think they really need to do anything defensively. We've seen all the numbers and all, like everybody's saying, damn, they've really improved on that end, and which they have. But what this team really lacks, and I think is a big problem when it comes to this whole live and die by the three areas, that there's a lot of shot takers. There aren't a lot of shot makers, especially when it comes to being able to operate in the half court. We all know that's something that's really important to in the playoffs. That's why Chris Middleton's the fucking man. That's why Jason Tatum, he's aight sometimes. That's why KD is like a legendary performer. It's this ability to really create your own shot when that three's not falling, or when all the defense is keying on. Jordan Clarkson, best case scenario, mwah, I would love that. More plausible though, Ruben, you were talking about Terrence Ross. I would love a guy like Terrence Ross on this Bucks roster. I think he would fit right in with that bench. Another guy on the Magic, Gary Harris, I think would be solid too. And even another guy, not Jakob Pertl, but Josh Richardson. I think you're going to see, and I hope that you see a lot of these sort of I don't want to say low tier because that sounds very disrespectful. I'm all about being respectful, fuck Devin Booker and all. But I think you're going to see a lot of the contender teams. I mean, we look at Boston. They're not looking to change anything about their starting lineup. And you do that with any championship team. You're really looking to shore up your bench. And, it's not about 1 through 5, but it's more about that 6 through 9. How are they looking? And I think guys like Gary Harris, Terrence Ross, Josh Richardson, Jordan Clarkson, that would be solid. But man, best case scenario, if all the planets align, Cam Reddish, baby.
Apparently, Knicks are actually wanting two second rounders for him.
I would do it.
Really, that's the market for him. I think you take the flyer on him.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't think he'd be a part of the playoff rotation or anything, but that would, I think, really shore up our prospect pool, because right now it's really only it's guys that you don't really know outside of Marjon Beauchamp. It's the guys that you don't really know unless you're a Bucks fan. Which Champagne brother did the Raptors have? Justin,
yeah.
Yeah, and he had his little spurts here and there, but it's those prospects that they aren't really. I don't even want to say blue chip, because I don't think Marjon Beauchamp's not like that. But yeah, just like the guys that even a person outside of your fan base would be able to name. The Bucks don't really have too many of those. So I think getting a guy like Cam Reddish might be a step in the right direction. Just hope he's not the only move, because if he does that, we are fucked. Especially if Chris doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Middleton would be a perfect piece. Terrence Ross would be a perfect piece in light of the Middleton injury. Because, again, he's also a really explosive scorer. People forget that. Dude dropped 51 points for the Raptors.
Off of the bench, too.
Yeah, off of the bench. And the thing with Terrence Ross, too, is, he is also a low-key, I wouldn't say a 3-level scorer, but his ability to create off of dribble pull-ups and, secondary action is really good for a guy like Giannis and Drew. And so I think he's key in that situation. And again, I think he also allows a team like Milwaukee to play faster in the open court. Because, again, Giannis is really good, but there's really no one else that's kind of... at least, and correct me if I'm mistaken, DJ, but this team doesn't have a whole lot of threats in transition aside from Giannis, and that's why Giannis.
Not at all, really, that I can think off the top, because
that's what. Yeah. Again, and so who's the other guy? Pat Connaughton is the one guy who might be in the open court.
That's probably one of those if the stars align kind of thing, because he's tends to be a spot up guy.
Exactly, and so. A lot of their transition is based off break start from Giannis off the board and taking it himself. Having a guy like Terrence Ross in transition, great opportunity, spot up threes in the corner. He's a guy that can run the lanes, finish on the break, even at 30 plus years old now. So I mean, I think that's a perfect fit. And again, Terrence Ross is an impactful player, man. Like I think he's really gonna make an impact on a team like Milwaukee. Like I think he'll have sudden impact.
Would love to see
But
it.
I hope he comes to Toronto.
Come on, man. I want to see him play meaningful basketball.
Hey, relax. Don't worry. The Raptors will be playing meaningful basketball by February.
No, I hope so. I think it's just like really they just need a bit more help and more depth. Because I mean, Nurse is running those guys into the ground, man.
Well, lately he hasn't, and the bench has been playing really well. And so they've been doing this whole Gary with bench lineup, and that's been working. So
Is Achuwawa back?
yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Achiwawa is back. He's playing nice. He's playing really well. And again, like he's a guy that you'd be like, hey, we're gonna tank and develop. Achua's a guy you keep on your team because he's like 22, 23 years old, and the dude has every skill possible. He jumps out the gym. Like, man, I don't know what the Miami Heat were doing to that dude because that dude couldn't score on the basket like within 2 feet.
Real. He shoots threes now too, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is tough. But all right, I just want to ask y'all one last question before we get out of here. Who's a more legendary playoff performer, Chris Middleton or Jason Tatum?
Devin Booker. Devin Booker. Sorry, DJ, I can't give the satisfaction of this answer right now.
Out of the three,
You'll find out this year, DJ.
Who's got a ring?
Oh, Pascal Siakam.
Hoo-hoo.
No, of course, man. Like, who was the better player? Jason Tatum. Who's a better playoff performer?
I don't know. I don't know if I can wholeheartedly say Chris, because I'm not gonna lie. Prior, he beat the allegations in that championship run, but man, he let me the fuck down in the bubble. I can't lie.
Yeah,
Well, I
Bubba
mean,
Chris
it's
Middleton
easy.
was something else.
Bubble Chris Middleton was disgusting, but I mean, our starting point guard was fucking Eric Bledsoe, man. I saw that motherfucker dribble as the inbounder once. That was the first NBA game I ever watched. My first time seeing my favorite team play this beautiful game of basketball. What did this motherfucker do? What the fuck?
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, I mean, it is easy to be a better playoff performer when you're not even the number one guy in your team. So.
I thought Jaylen Brown was the number one guy based on how the finals
come
went.
on, please.
What did the numbers say in the finals?
And the Warriors were going into every game. The scouting report was Jason Tatum in big letters on the fucking whiteboard. We're not putting Jaylen Brown at the top of the whiteboard. Let's be real.
Let's be real here. That shit didn't say Stavo. It was like, fuck these guys, man. We're the fucking Warriors. That's Steph fucking Curry.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, bro. Steph Curry is gonna go down as like a top. He already is a top 10 player. Let's be honest. Like, if I'm being completely honest, at least. And Jason Tatum had to go against the best dynasty of this generation or of this decade, in my opinion, for his first playoff run. So you know what, I
Giannis had to take down Brooklyn. Giannis had to take down Brooklyn.
Bro, Brooklyn was a good team by all means. Like, they're obviously a well formulated team, but they're not a dynasty team. They were put together that one year, and they almost beat the Bucks that game. If I
they lost by a toe.
They lost by a toe.
Get that shit behind the line. Is it my fault the motherfucker wears a size 18?
All right. Then let's debate this very, very quickly. Would you take that Warriors team or that Nets team in a 7-game series? That's right, motherfucker.
Wait. Fully healthy? Fully healthy?
Yeah, fully healthy.
Is Steve Nash my coach?
Yeah, that's the
team.
Team.
Fuck that then, man. Let's be real, man. The only reason that team sucked ass, Steve Nash was the fucking coach. You saw what happened this year? That team looks so fucking sorry. They fired that fucker. Jock Vaughn is the fucking truth, man. Here's how I'll play it.
Steve Nash is an awful coach. Like, I'll
If
have to. Like, he
Steve Nash
don't know
is
what's
the
going on.
coach, the Nets are cooked. But Jock Vaughn, those motherfuckers look like the '96 Bulls to an extent. But if it's those teams at their present, I'll take the Warriors. You know, shit.
It's gotta be. I'd take that Warriors team over a lot of teams.
Oh no, man.
Yeah.
Oh no, dog.
Wait, 20.
Oh no,
Let's be
man.
real here.
Okay.
Undisputedly, the greatest NBA team ever is definitely that 2018 or the 2019 team.
Oh yeah.
Without a shadow
I
of a
wouldn't say
doubt.
the.
Maybe 2018 or 2017.
I think it'd have to
Every
be
year they won.
2018. No, 2017. I mean, those Warrior teams were pretty much the same, but like,
Yeah, it's like kind of comparing apples to apples at that point.
True. It's one of those two though.
Oh, for sure.
That team would fucking smoke Chicago.
They would. Man, this is the debate for another section. This is
True.
a blacktop showdown, but you have to get an
Oh,
all-time team
guys.
on.
we gotta have like an episode where it's just like, I don't know, somewhere where we put like the best championship team together, of like your roster, like of your favorite team. I mean, this might be easier because like freaking Christian's got Boston, so then I could put like Kevin Garnett, Jason Tatum, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, and freaking Larry Bird on one team.
Man,
But, like,
give me Jesus Shuttlesworth, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, fucking Michael Redd, Monte Ellis, and we coming in that bitch and we fucking up Boston, man.
are you sure against Kawhi Leonard, Chris Bosh, Pascal Siakam, Vince Carter, and DeMar DeRozan? Oh no, dog.
That team does sound cold though.
That team's pretty cool, dog. You know what I'm saying? And that's a team with like only 25 years in history.
Shit, man. Oscar Robertson, Ray Allen,
That's
Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, bro, what about Michael Redd?
Michael Redd could come off the bench. And if we're going by drafted players, give me Alex English. Middies all fucking day.
No, Alex English was cold too, bro. Alex English was cold. He's a cold dude.
Who's Christian gonna pull out? Bob Cousy? That motherfucker couldn't even dribble with his left hand.
Yo, man, I do. Why did I know you were gonna go there? Bob Cousy. It's like he couldn't dribble with his left hand. Oh my
Have
god.
you guys ever seen like footage of them dribbling? It doesn't.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't look good.
Look at that 4-year-old dribbling the ball.
No kizzy. Holy. Nah, but this is definitely some stuff we're gonna do in the future. So definitely be on the lookout for that. This has been another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. Y'all got any closing remarks?
Back shots.
Handies. What about you, Christian?
My prediction now: the Bucks are a second-round exit team, and and the Celtics will win the NBA championship.
Hey,
leave it at that.
You can think that all you want. I think we're all in agreement here, though. The true NBA Finals is that matchup. Let's just keep it a stack here.
Whoever wins that matchup.
Are you guys sure? You don't. I think it might be the Denver Nuggets and the New Orleans Pelicans.
See, when you look at the Nuggets, what's Jokic gonna do once Brook Lopez clamps his ass, man? Brook Lopez gonna have him on lockup.
You sure?
No, I'm not. One part of my ass there. And the Pelicans, we saw the Bucks completely fucking stop Zion. I don't know. But I think when you, just real quick, when you talk about the Pelicans, as great as they've been, you can't really like equate anything you've seen now because a lot of it has been done without BI. BI is an all-star.
Exactly. That might set the bar, and or it might be like we don't need BI and they package him off.
If they trade BI before they trade Valanciunas, that would be who's their GM? Brian Griffin? That motherfucker should lose his job.
I don't think that. Well, I mean, and I don't even think they moved Valanciunas.
I don't
I
think
don't see
so
the
either.
need
I
to.
think you let this team ride out, fully healthy,
Absolutely.
literally
I
almost
think
beat
they
the
need BI
first
in the
seed.
playoffs.
Mm.
They'll absolutely need BI in the playoffs. So I can leave it at that.
I mean, real quick, did Bi have like 8 straight points in like game 4 or 5? That was beautiful basketball. Wow.
Yeah.
Bi, I need you back, man. I need you to pull me out the depths of 7th place, man. But with that, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see y'all soon.
Back shots, back shots, back shots.